We're talking about being a chief officer. Chief officer focused on information security, which means you need to be able to talk with other executives. So a lot of comments were, can we get some executives on this podcast to talk about what information they like to hear, how they view cybersecurity, and how you communicate with them in business language. So it's a great pleasure to have Shashank with us today. Welcome to Life of a CISO. I'm Dr. Eric Cole, your host, and we'll be taking you on a journey each week on what it takes to be a CISO and what are solutions that you can implement today if you are currently a Chief Information Security Officer or if you want to be one in the future. This is Life of a CISO. Welcome, 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 welcome. You know what time it is. It is time, my friends. I hope you are ready. Let's buckle up. Put on our seatbelt. We have amazing information coming to you on Life of a CISO with yours truly. Dr. E is in the house. As you know, we've been doing a lot of interviews. We've been getting a lot of great responses from that. And I want to continue that series here. And one of the things we were getting a lot of questions on is we're talking about being a chief officer. Chief officer focused on information security, which means you need to be able to talk with other executives. So a lot of comments were, can we get some executives on this podcast to talk about what information they like to hear, how they view cybersecurity, and how you communicate with them in business language. So it's a great pleasure to have Shashank with us today. He has an amazing career, built a bunch of companies. He is, when it comes to business and being a chief executive officer, he is the man with the plan, and he knows that. So we're going to deep dive into how CEOs think and operate so you as a CISO can understand how to interact and operate with them. So Shashank, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dr. E. It's a pleasure.
Truly a pleasure. Feeling is mutual, my friend. And can you give it just a little background and bio? I know my bio didn't even give you justice of what you've done. Can you give a little background of your experience and how you sort of view business from your standpoint?
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to. I grew up in India. I went to business school there, worked for GE Consumer Finance as my first real job, so to say, out of business school, and then worked for a startup in India that's the job that really got me transferred here to the US in Silicon Valley as head of business for them. I worked for them about a year and a half, and that's when 2008 happened. So this was a VC funded mortgage company, and we all know what happened to mortgage industry, overall financial markets in '08. So the funding went away, the company shut down, and I was left here in a new country. 18 months in the new country with practically no connections and no savings. And I still started my mortgage business in '08, which even 17 years later, I'm yet to find anyone who has started a mortgage business in that year, given the kind of headwinds that we had. I also ended up founding two more companies recently, one in the AI space and one in the fintech space. Nice. Our mortgage company has consistently been named one of the fastest growing mortgage companies by Inc. and Deloitte and Financial Times. So that's where we are in the journey, and me as an individual, as an entrepreneur.
Excellent. And one of the big things we always have to remember is put ourselves in someone else's shoes. So put yourself in the person you're talking with. So I know a lot of you as a security person or chief information security officer, we're always thinking about cybersecurity. But when you're meeting with an executive, imagine if you're going to talk to Shashank in 2008 and 2009. You're going in and all you care about is cybersecurity, but all he cares about is survival. Right? Yeah. He's in a new country. Yeah. His company he's starting a new company. He doesn't have a lot of finances, and that's all he's focused on. So if you're coming in and trying to push cybersecurity on him, it's not going to work. But if you can go in and help him and say, here's how we can help you grow or expand, then all of a sudden you're going to be accepted. Shashank, can you sort of talk about that then when, because people are always trying to help you and sell you things, whether it's cybersecurity or something else. What are you always looking for? Is it about growing the business, or what is your perspective on what information do you want from them on deciding whether you should work with an individual or not?
Yeah, that's a great point, because you're right. As a CEO, I get pitched a lot of products and services, including cybersecurity. And one of the problems that I see with vendors or products, or other individuals talking about things, is that they don't. What you mentioned is very important, which is putting yourself in somebody else's shoes, especially the person that you're trying to sell shoes, and understanding their business. Because one of the biggest challenges that I have listening to these pitches is the fact that they have sometimes very little understanding, both in terms of what my business looks like, and what my priorities look like at a certain point in time. It's as if they are so self-focused into what their domain expertise is, or what their product tries to sell, is that they spend very little time in terms of trying to understand why would I be buying that service, or why would I be listening to their consulting, whether it's cybersecurity or something else. Also, the other problem that I sometimes see, Dr. E, is that for a very small advantage or benefit that specific product or service that offers, there is a huge detour in terms of my workflow that looks like right now. So if you came to me and said, I can save you 5-10 minutes of your time, and say it's in a loan process or something else. But you know what? Your team will have to go to a separate website, upload all the documents there, review it. So I'm trying to save 5 minutes here or 10 minutes, but I'm causing huge amount of frustration in my workflow that my team is used to doing, say, for a decade. So there are two things that I would really advise people who are coming to pitch me for anything, is that first, understand my business better. And when I say business better, not just my individual company better, but also where the industry is in terms of what are the challenges look like. And two, understand how does it impact my current workflow. If you come up with those two understandings, you probably have a leg up compared to 99% of the people that I talk to.
Now that is great advice, and spot on and very well said. I want to follow up on sort of the putting yourself in someone else's shoes, understanding your priorities. What is the best way for someone to get that? Should Because I know some of it they might be able to research on the web, but a lot of times, like what you're really going through, what your current priorities are, is not something that's publicly available. So, what's the best way for somebody to get that? Do you prefer them to ask it in an email before the meeting, during the meeting? Like, how do they get that information so they can actually help you?
Yeah, great question. First of all, yes, there are a lot of things that you can research on the web, and it surprises me is that even some of the basic research is not done.
Yeah,
So I'm trying to answer it in an easy way, which is, even if you did what you just mentioned as the first part, saying that it's easy to find stuff on the web, and even then people don't even do that. I mean, there are a lot of things. We know that we are not a public company, and you don't get a lot of our financials and priorities out there, but there is still, you can do a lot. I mean, you can look at my LinkedIn profile and you can see what I have been doing recently. You can look at the industry trend and figure out that if the industry is heading in a certain direction, chances are that this company is also probably heading in that direction. We can be an outlier, but at least you would have done your research. So first of all, even before I come to answering the part that what will be a priority to me and how do you get that out of me, first, at least do the research that you can on your own. I'm so surprised at times when people come to me with so generic, it's almost canned email, just inserting the field with, say, my company's name or my name or something, which seems clearly very, very generic, and tells them that they have probably not even spent 10-15 minutes researching me and my company. So that's the first thing, is that even the information that's available in public domain, so to say, or on my social media profile, like LinkedIn, at least do your bit. I mean, take 30 minutes, an hour to do your research. So that's the first part. And second part, most people would be very open if they understand that you're coming in from a place of, I really want to understand your business to see, even so, to see if this is even a good fit,
right.
versus coming in with the mindset saying, I already know this is a good fit, or I already know I need to sell this to you, let me figure out how. If you did that, which means if you came to me and said, look, I sell cybersecurity services, and I have no idea what kind of challenges you have. I understand mortgage business, and I understand that's highly regulated. I understand that cybersecurity is very important for this industry. But what is important for you? Do you already have an individual taking care of this? Have you had these instances in the past? Do you fear that an instance like this can put you into, say, in bad books of some of the regulators? If you were to ask me those questions, chances are I will answer it. If I can see that you're coming from a place of understanding my business and not coming from a place of, we sell a cybersecurity solution that solves this. Now let me ask you this. I mean, that's really not the right approach to be selling something. But yeah, if you came to me with first email, not even talking about what you sell, maybe give your expertise, of course, because otherwise I won't respond to it. But then let me understand your business, because if it may not be a right fit, because what I'm selling may not be something which is useful to you. But would you be willing to answer those questions? And a lot of people would be, is because especially in the cybersecurity space, which is so highly critical for the existence of most businesses, and something that keeps CEOs up at night at times, especially in an industry like ours. I think they will be more than willing, if they can find the right partner, if they can find the right resource to answer those questions. So two things: one, the research that you do, make sure you are doing it in full faith. You're doing it to the extent that that's possible. And two, ask questions in the right earnest, not in the sense of, if I can get him to answer in a certain way, then I can get him to pitch my product to him.
Yeah, great information, and just sort of emphasizing some of the things that were said is time is the most valuable asset. Don't waste somebody's time. Don't waste an executive's time. If there's information that you could have found out
Yes.
already, I mean, don't go in and ask him that. Show him that you already know that information. Go, hey, I know that you started this business, and sort of show that you've done your research, because that's going to connect with them. And then also, it's, what are you coming from? If you're coming from a position of it's all about you, probably going to get defensive and not provide the information. If it's coming from how can I help you, then usually they'll be more likely to provide the data or the information you need to help them, not help you. It's
Yeah,
about
and
helping
not
them,
just
not closing
that.
the sale. Yep.
Sorry to interrupt there. Not just that, is because what it also does, and I've seen this in the past, is that it may not be a right fit right now. So
Yep.
you come from a position of, in right earnest, I want to understand what your business challenges are related to a certain product that you're selling me. And I could come back and say, I have absolutely no need for this. This is not my priority right now. I'm focused on business growth. Cybersecurity is not what I'm looking at. But you know what? Either you continue to follow up every couple of months, saying, "Hey, just seeing if there is something that changed at your end." And by the way, you could at the same time, you could send me a white paper or something that you have recently published, and or you have just found it on the web. I've done that when I have tried to build partnership with other companies. I've done the same. Some things have taken a year or two, three, but I have remained in touch in a way which adds value to their business. And then, you know what? Someday I will need that service. And who will I think of that day? I don't want to be going on Google or asking my friend, hey, who do you know who's a cybersecurity expert? But you know what? This individual has been in touch with me, sending white papers and articles and things that are value to. Even though I probably did not read half of those, it doesn't really matter, is because now I know this person is truly interested in not just understanding my business, but selling me what I actually need. So don't get disheartened even with the fact that if your executive doesn't have that time at that time, if you're an employee or if you're an outside vendor trying to sell service, because things like this, we understand that, given in the kind of business I am, that think there is a need for a service or a product like this at some point or the other for the business. Were you that top of the head solution at that point in time? And that sometimes means just nurturing the relation much longer than what you would want to be.
Yep. And great point is, it's about timing.
Yep.
It's at the end of the day, the probability that what you need or want or sell, or where you need money, is probably going to happen. The question is if it's not today, it might be a year or 2 years.
Yeah.
And I'm with you. Most people are so focused that if they don't get it right now, they get frustrated and almost get like angry and irritated. It's like, no, no, no. If you recognize the timing is not right, build the rapport. So when the timing is right, you're going to be the person that they reach out to. So
Yeah.
I think very well said there. Let's sort of transition, because that was great in terms of sort of selling or getting the job. But let's say now you did hire somebody to do your cybersecurity, or you did hire a virtual CISO, or you actually hired somebody in your company to focus on cybersecurity. How do you want them to communicate with them? Like if you have somebody working for you and their focus is on cybersecurity, do you want them like contacting you daily, weekly, monthly? Like what's the right interaction and timing? Because I find that what happens is it's extremes. Either they're too much or they're too little in terms of communication. But what's the right cadence or communication you're looking for?
Yeah, a couple of things on that before I give my personal opinion on where I would like that to be. One is that understand the person that you're working for, working with, in terms of what kind of a manager they are. Understanding their preferences is very important. Meaning, are they the kind of sort of person that like to micromanage other people, or which is, by the way, not a bad thing. That just because somebody think micromanagement is a bad thing, it really depends on. Sometimes people who are micromanagers are just detail oriented, which is again, to a large extent, is not such a bad thing. Or are there people, the person that you're reporting to, are they more macromanager kind of a thing? Do they empower you to do a lot of this stuff on your own, and only want to be reported, say, on a daily, on a regular cadence, and when things go wrong? So first of all, understanding, and that applies to whether you're reporting to someone or you're an outside, as you said, you're a virtual CISO, and you're working for a company. So understand their preference. Having that meeting to understand what they prefer is very important. Instead of you assuming that a certain thing worked for a certain CEO, and this person looks like a similar kind of a CEO, so maybe it will work for them as well. So don't assume. Different leaders have different style, in both in terms of how they communicate and also how they want to receive communication. So nobody will get hurt when you ask them, okay, so you hired me to do this. How frequently do you want the report? These are my KPIs that I'll be tracking. Do you want a weekly report on this? Do you want a monthly report on this? How frequently do you want to set up a one-on-one on this? And I do that with my subordinates as well. I do that with my department heads, and I take their feedback. Is that sometimes I'll set something which is twice a month, and they'll be like, "That's an overkill. There's really not much of an update that I get every 2 weeks. Why don't we do this as a monthly meeting instead of doing it, say, a bi-monthly meeting?" So understand that you also sometimes need to educate them. So if they say, "Send me a quarterly report and that's good enough for me," then you need to educate them, is because as a CEO, I might not be aware of the gravity of the situation or gravity of what cybersecurity, say, personnel does, which means that you can say, I mean, 3 months, a quarterly report is probably too far out. We should be reviewing it, as you as the CEO and me as a virtual CISO, maybe every month or every 2 weeks, because that, I think, for your industry is the right cadence. And I tell that from the experience. And let's start with that. If that's too much, if that's an overkill, we can definitely spread that cadence out. So I think that sometimes you solve a lot of problem by not assuming, but actually having an open conversation. I personally is a very macro manager kind of a leader, which means I empower my team to do a lot of things on their own. I believe and trust in them. And so my meeting cadence tends to be slightly farther out than, say, I would most of the other CEOs that I meet. They tend to meet their, say, department heads much more often than I tend to. So understanding their style of work, educating them sometimes, trying out sometime, and then saying that if this cadence is working, and then spreading it out or thinning that out, depending on how that goes. That's the approach that I'll take with a CEO.
I think that's a great approach. And let's talk a lot about meetings, because there's a lot of attention in that. And so my view is, I know a lot of people are all about meet, meet, meet. Like you hear all these things where these employers are like, I mean, they send a message to the CEO. You see this a lot with Amazon, where the employer's like, "I want to talk to Jeff Bezos. I want to get his answer," and this and that. And he's like, "No, I mean, no, tell me what the issue and the problem is. Well, let's see if we can resolve it." And do that. And I sort of find a lot of people just don't want to do the work, and they're all about the meeting and not about getting the answer. So what's sort of your philosophy on, like, what's the requirement to have a meeting with you? Do they have to just go in and give you the question and the solution? Like, how much work or research? Because I know some people I like an agenda. I know Jeff Bezos likes a 3-page overview. I know other executives like a detailed report. What's sort of your view of what information do people need to provide to you so you can decide that, yes, this is worth a meeting, or this can be solved someplace else?
Yeah, it's I believe in delete, delay, and delegate. That's the 3D principle that I look at when I look at request. And it's a fine mix, because as a CEO, we also have a very open door policy. I always have had that, which means you can come to me for anything and everything that you want. But at the same time, you cannot come to me with no research on a certain thing. You cannot come to me for me to be your first source of finding a solution when you haven't tried. So that's why I said delete is things where you came to me, and where I very quickly realized that this does not involve me, or I shouldn't be spending time on this at all. And not just I shouldn't be spending time on this, nobody should be spending time on this. Meaning you came up with an idea which you have done no research about. You said let's do, say, direct to consumer marketing, but you have no plan, you have no idea, you don't know what your ROI looks like. That's more a delete. Or at best it'll be like, do more research, come back to me, and we'll talk about it. Delay is something where people are like, oh, I need to talk to you today, or I need to talk to you tomorrow, when you know that this is not urgent. So sometimes you need to push back. How urgent is this? I really, and you will find out that you can delay it. You can do it the next week. You can do it 2 weeks after. And then finally, delegate is when you know that you may not even be the right person. Just because you're the CEO does not mean that you understand everything else better than everybody else. And you can say, oh, you should be going to, say, ops head on this, or compliance head on this. So that's the 3D approach that I typically take. But anyone who comes to me, and there are people in the team that have done their research, they have already tried the solutions they could, they've gone to other people in the team, so they've technically already looked at my 3D approach, so to say, is this idea even worth it? Can it be done by someone else, or can it be delayed? Does it need to be does it need to be done now? And in your head, you should be thinking those 3Ds. Is this idea like, so I'm not just saying as a CEO I should be thinking it, which I do, but when you are sending that email out for, say, setting up that meeting, first think about, is this even worth it? Meaning, will he just delete it? Second, does this need to be done now? I mean, is this that urgent that where you need to meet me tomorrow? And finally, is there someone else in the team that can help me with this? If not, then if you come to me, you will get my attention, because, and you will mention that it does not have to be a 3-page document like, say, Bezos reads it. Depending on the gravity of the situation, it could be just be a paragraph. This is my problem. This is what I've tried. This is what I've looked at with other people. Could not solve the problem, and then mention how much time do you expect to take for me. You can't just keep it open ended. Say, let's discuss. I think it'll take about 15 minutes for us to get on a phone call and find a solution. Let's do it in that case. I'll most likely find a time on my calendar and schedule into it.
I know that makes a lot of sense. And then one other thing that comes up a lot is uh, the security person, the chief information security officer, doesn't report to the CEO. They often report to 2 or 3 layers beyond, but the information they need is a decision that the CEO has to make. And what
Yes.
will happen a lot of times, and I've had this when I was a CISO, is my boss is like, no, 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 I'll answer the question. And I'm like, no, no, it's not a question for you. It has to be an executive level decision.
Mhm.
How do you suggest people deal with that, where it's information that the CEO wants, but their direct supervisor doesn't understand or is blocking them from getting access? Should they go around their person and contact you directly, or how do you suggest they deal with that?
Yeah, it's a lot to do with the company culture. Again, as I said, we have a very open door policy, right, all the way to me, and so people feel empowered when they have something where they think that their direct manager, so to say, is not able to resolve something, and because the culture is built in a way where they don't feel afraid of coming directly to me, and think that at the same time I do involve their direct bosses.
Yep.
So while I encourage them to come to me, I also encourage them not to break the protocol, which means that yes, you came to me because you thought this was important, but that does not mean that I'm not going to keep your boss in the loop with this one, and maybe we can have a combined meeting. But that's coming from me directly. If it's say a CISO going to a chief information officer or somebody that they report to, and they believe that this is something which is not important, it becomes really hard. It becomes what kind of a culture there is in the company. Some of the CIO will be, I mean, they may not have any ego, and they can say, why don't you go directly to the CEO and see if this is something that he or she would be willing to listen to. But if you believe something is important, and that your boss does not understand, my first approach would be to educate them, is how important it is. And my first approach won't be to suddenly jump the gun and jump the protocol and go directly to the CEO. Is because it might work okay, I mean, once or twice here and there, but as a routine, That's not something, even if I, as I said, even in a company where we have such an open culture, I do not encourage the fact that every time something goes wrong you come directly to me.
Yep.
In a rarest of situation, I would take your boss in the loop, and will kind of understand why you came to me. Maybe there was an urgency sometimes that requires my attention directly, and something that we need to resolve quickly. But I do that once, and you start doing that every now and then. That's something I'm not going to appreciate. Is because there is a reason you have a boss, and if you're not able to educate them regularly, then maybe there's a problem with you, in the sense that, because that's one of the jobs. The job is not just that you have a problem, you come to me. Your job is also to manage upwards, and that's a part of that, is to make them understand why this is so important and why this needs to be taken to the CEO. So again, exceptions are fine. You're doing it on a regular basis, then we have a problem. Then you probably need to understand how to educate your bosses on what's important and what's not.
Yeah. I love that. Respect the chain of command. And I really love what you said is we're always so easy to go, my boss doesn't understand. My boss doesn't understand. I need to go around him. But maybe you don't understand. And
Yeah.
maybe your boss is right. And this really isn't an executive level decision. You think it is, but it's actually not. So step back and go, why are they blocking me? Why are
Yeah.
they not allowing this to happen? Try to understand their position instead of thinking you're right. Maybe they're right and you're wrong. So yeah, that was very, very well said.
Thank
The
you.
other thing I want to talk about is sort of one of the things I always push is if cybersecurity negatively impacts the business, then cybersecurity is wrong. But how do you deal with a situation where there is a huge risk, but it's going to cost the company money and not necessarily help grow the company? How should a CISO deal with those issues where it's like, okay, like a pending ransomware attack where, hey, there's a high probability we're going to get hit with ransomware and we want to spend all this money to fix it, but it's a probability, not 100%. Like, how do you deal with those issues where it's something that could happen, but not a guarantee?
Yeah, it's tricky, right? And also
Yeah.
depends on, again, as I said, depends on what the business priority is. What does the balance sheet looks like? Where have we committed our funds to? And then if you come and say, hey, we need a certain dollar amount to fix this, that is an executive level decision. I'll be looking at various factors at that time. What is the probability of ransom attack? Saying that this is probable, everything is probable. I mean,
Yeah.
could there be a ransom attack? Yeah. What is your probability on this one? Is it at 10%? Is it at 90%? And if you don't have an answer, then I have a problem. Because you coming in saying that it is probable is not the right enough answer
Yeah.
to for you to be able to. And I'm not saying, again, I won't be unrealistic in saying give me an exact 89.83% probability on this, but at least categorize into low to moderate to high or to very high. At least give me some kind of a direction on what it looks like. Because at that time, if you come to me and say there's a very high likelihood of this happening, maybe I'll divert some funds from what I have already committed to, because then this becomes a priority, especially again in an industry like us where we are not just highly regulated, we have very sensitive information. And a ransomware attack kind of will probably cripple our business at that point in time, thus losing way more money than what we could actually spend into doing this. Also, you could show me a long-term benefit of this, meaning that even if it does not happen now, the systems that we put in place will help us for the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years into protect. So it may not be an immediate threat right now, or even if it's an immediate threat, and even if it were not to happen, the fact that we have put so much effort and money into building an infrastructure that will prevent it will keep us safe for years to come. So don't think of it as a short term budget diversion that you have to do from one place to the other. This is a long term commitment to our cybersecurity. And so that will help me as well, is that then I'm not looking at, do I spend it on marketing or do I spend on cybersecurity right now? Because marketing gives me a direct result and boosts my top line right now. Cybersecurity does not. But say if this is a long-term investment, then that's something that I'll be looking at doing. So those two things, again, one is do your research, come up to me with more specific data on what the probability looks like. Two, maybe sell to me the fact that this is not just a one-time thing only to help us prevent, say, a certain ransom attack that's going on in the industry. But if you spend money on this, this will be long-term solution into preventing things like this in the future. And yeah, and three, of course, I mean, education on all of this is very important. Again, as a CEO, I may not understand some of these threats. So you coming up with something that I fully understand. The more you understand a problem, the more you're willing to invest in the solution. The less you understand it, the less risk that you think there is. And that's something that's something I've always believed in, is that if you explain me the problem better, I personally will be invested in finding a solution. If you're coming it from, again, from a cybersecurity expert who's like, I understand this problem, all I'm asking you to do this, then I have not even understood the problem in the first place for me to say, okay, I'm willing to divert some of the funds to do this. So that's an approach that I'll take.
No, and that's great information because that's so true. Is a lot of CISOs, they understand the problem and they assume you understand the problem,
Yes.
and they come in just with the solution. But an executive wants to understand the problem, so you need to take that time to really educate them in order for them to be able to fix it. And then, sort of as we wrap up, one of the things I want to ask you is a lot of security professionals that want to become a CISO, they don't have a business background, right? They don't have that business background. And I often get asked is, as a security person, should I go back and get my MBA? Should I go back to school, or should I just read? Or what's your suggestion for somebody who's in cybersecurity and they want to move to a chief officer position? Do you think they should go and get an MBA or read books or get mentoring? Like, what's the best way for them to fill that gap on business knowledge?
A combination of everything. And I'm not saying go back and do your full MBA, but we are living in 2025 where, and I'll give you my personal example, is when ChatGPT came out in early 2022, late 2021. I taught myself AI almost from scratch by investing practically nothing. There is so much online resource from
Yeah.
stuff like Coursera and General Assembly. There are multiple different, so much so that I have a startup in an AI. So you can understand that we are not just talking basic level knowledge here. We are talking expert level knowledge here that can be acquired. And the reason I said a combination of everything is because if you have a mentor, for example, that just expedites all your knowledge intake and understanding of the business. Is because a mentor has done this before, not just with you, but probably with multiple other people in terms of guiding them and coaching them and teaching them. So I have always been a huge believer in having mentor and coaches and trainers, depending on the industry that you are in, because you could narrow down and you are able to fast track a lot of your learning very, very quickly, because you're not just going on the web trying to find stuff, and then you come across 10 videos, two of them are useful and eight of them are not. That is not to say that you should not do that. So for my approach of learning has always been multimedia, multimodal, so to say, which is, yes, go find courses, yes, go watch YouTube videos, but if you can find a coach that you respect, admire, they have the credibility, reputation, mentor, definitely hire them. I mean, their cost for few training sessions is nothing compared to what you can get out of it. And sometimes it depends on personal preference. I mean, you could be somebody that likes learning in classrooms. If that's the case, then go to a community school or something, or some kind of an executive course. Again, you don't have to go and do a full MBA. I probably at this stage of your career, it may not add that much value to you. But yeah, if you somebody who likes classroom, go there, go to a college, join something local. If you would like to learn, say from an online method, there are literally hundreds and thousands of things. But combine probably either one of them with finding a mentor if you can, because if anything, that will not just help you narrow the right kind of courses that you have to do, but will also really expedite and fast track your learning with that.
Excellent. And as we wrap up, sort of, I want to get your final words of advice. So, from somebody who is more technical and they want to get more into business, what is your final business advice to them? Like, what is something that they should be thinking about as a business person that's probably not directly obvious to them?
Yeah, I mean, understanding about business is very important for anyone who's a technical role, whether you're an engineer, you're a CSO, CISO, any kind of role. It's very important that you understand what the business priorities lie, and sometimes it could be as easy as going to the CEO and understanding that what are the challenges with the business right now, and then go and ask them for recommendations. It'll be You'll be surprised how many times they will tell you about things that, about a certain book, about a certain course, about a certain individual, might be an executive coach or something that they can direct you to, and that will give you a fair amount of understanding in terms of what the business looks like, because you're not just trying to learn business in a general sense. You're trying to learn business in a very specific sense with the kind of companies either you consult to, or the kind of company that you're working for. So, for example, if you're in the financial services industry, learning just about how generally businesses are conducted may not be entirely relevant, may not be even at all relevant to the kind of business that you are helping or you are part of. So sometimes having that narrow focus, and that's why saying going and doing an MBA is probably not the right choice. That's a very general business course. So I did that when I came out of undergrad, worked for a couple of years and did that because that could be a launch pad for the career that I was looking at. But say at the stage of career where you have done 10 years, 15 years of cybersecurity work or security work, or you're it may not add that much to the and so I would do something which is much shorter, much smaller in terms of context. But those are the things I will look at. Is that I will probably talk to some of the executives in my own team and understand that first their priorities, and second, what do they recommend for me to get a better understanding of the business, which is more relevant to the kind of work that we are doing.
Very, very well said. And Shashank, thank you so much for being on the show. It was truly a pleasure.
Yeah, the pleasure was mine. Thank you for having me.
Excellent. Thank you for joining us on Life of a CISO. Please post comments. I'm sure you're going to say this was awesome and amazing. So please post comments and feedback to us, and we'll definitely pass them on to Shashank. And once again, you've been listening to Life of a CISO. Have an amazing week, and we'll see you next week.